Well, I thought I'd do this at the beginning of October. I've always officially said that I don't decide usually who I'm going to vote for until the time has come to go out and vote. Um, so, uh, but um, but it's getting to a point where it's obvious who I'm going to vote for, and I haven't really kind of pitched. I've defended Trump. I've said different things, but I haven't really put out the pitch why you should vote for Trump. I think about everybody that's going to watch this video, which is probably one person maybe, already is have to made up their mind, and so I don't think I'm going to change anybody's mind at all. But these are really desperate times we're living in right now, and I don't know where to even start. But I guess what I could say is they put a little history behind this. Uh, a lot of things led up to this, but we can kind of go back, wind the clock back to post-war America. And the Manhattan Project was one of those things. What they did was they poured in untold amounts of money into the Manhattan Project. And now what's that got to do with today? I'll explain to you. So they poured a whole bunch of money into the Manhattan Project, um, and it was done covertly. And the end result was an atomic bomb. Not just one atomic bombs, but the little boy and the big boy. And the little boy was a more efficient and more reproducible bomb. Then the big boy was their kind of like last ditch effort to try and make a bomb. And then they had this little boy idea that was going to take longer to develop. And they kind of finished off that project and then moved on to the little boy. So anyway, um, they did that. Now we've got a nuclear United States is a nuclear superpower, and then we're in a Cold War with Russia for decades. And during this Cold War, we took people from the CIA that were took people into what's called the OSA, which became the CIA, and we took spies, German spies, and into the CIA. In addition to that, we also had black funding that we started and a military industrial complex. And Eisenhower warned about this from the standpoint that this is a necessary evil to have this military industrial complex, but they'd have a lot of power. So gradually over time, the CIA and all these letter agencies, federal agencies, FBI, CIA, and all that, got bigger and bigger and bigger and more power. The Congress started to give more of their decision-making power to a bunch of alphabet agencies. And these alphabet agencies got more and more power, more and more arrogance, and more lack of lack of oversight. And it became issues at certain times, and they tried to fix the problem. And instead of fixing the problem, they like made it worse. So they've been pouring trillions of dollars into our military, and then another thing happens. It was not just a military industrial complex; it was the scientific complex. That's a big thing. So we pour a bunch of money into science, the military, the CIA, and all this. And the CIA got infiltrated. Our education system got infiltrated. Our music industry, everything, our whole culture got infiltrated by leftists, communist leftists. And what they do, it's the same thing as what Islam does. So this can go way back to, 1,000 years ago. What they do is this tactic of they hide behind the scenes while slowly indoctrinating people, and they use our Constitution when it's to their advantage, and they use things like the ACLU and lawyers to their advantage to get control over people. And the end goal is to destroy America, because America is the only free country in the world, or the country that's leading the world, the free world. And so they don't like that. They want to get rid of America. So what they do is that foreign interests started to, like oil money, and this is what Trump noticed back in the 80s. This goes back to Trump. Trump started noticing all these problems, that we were really weak on our foreign policy, and he started to notice that the oil money was dictating our policy. And he kept following this and following these things, and he kept saying, this is not right. I could do better at negotiating. And it got to the point where they kept asking him, are you going to run for president? He said, no, I'm not. We need to find somebody to do it. Well, nobody stepped up and did the job. He thought Reagan did, so he waited it back for a while, but it still wasn't good enough. Then along came George Herbert Bush, the first Bush, and that's when this whole thing got accelerated, because Bush used to be in the CIA. He was the guy that elevated all of this stuff. He pushed us into this new world order, which globalism. He pushed us into globalism, and he pushed us into the information age, which means get rid of all the manual jobs in America, and everybody's going to be at a computer desk, which is a stupid idea, but there's money behind it. It's all about money. And so there's all these special interests, and they gain a lot of power, and they infiltrated our corporations. Uh, they started to pay off our corporations with the advertising money was a big thing too. So any of these big corporations that are global, they're global corporations that have factories all over the world and stuff like that. They don't like it when people bash other countries. So we started to get softer on other countries. They said we don't want wars. Well, they don't want wars. They say they don't want wars, but they actually do. Uh, um, so there's all these conflicting things, and we basically they're successful to a large extent in covering up their evil, and it got to the point now where we're at right now, where um, there is just a lot of people that are really evil. They're doing evil things. They're unspeakable. Uh, I think there's human trafficking going on, drug trafficking going on, that they are in control. They're trying to gain control of America, and they have disguised all this evil stuff under liberalism, but they're not truly liberals. These people have nothing to do with liberal. They're going to spit out the liberals and go into an elitist, racist type of system. But they use any kind of the ills of our society, racism, chauvinism, anything. You can say the war on drugs, any kind of negative thing about America, they will use that to get more power and to get people to angry, so that they don't think about the issues in a very logical manner. Policies and issues require a lot of patience, prudence, a lot of thinking down the line. What is the impact of this is going to be? The average person out there, look at the bell curve, and the average person is not that smart, not that analytical. And so these issues require people that are more, they look down the road further. And I always thought that we had people in power that were looking like that, because a lot of our policies seem to be very intelligent. If you do this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. But what I found out was the exact opposite. They were trying to do the exact opposite of what I thought they're doing. Instead of being like patient and prudent, all this stuff, they're actually just slowly eroding slowly destroying other countries, and causing wars, because the military industrial complex relies on all this kind of thing. So I'm trying to do the entire history of America since 1950 in a nutshell. But this is what this all led up to, was too many people right now in our education system, our colleges, are leftists. It's not really about liberalism. They don't believe in freedom at all. They just want total totalitarian government control. And they use people that are emotionally based people, and they've trained you. They condition you for this, by the way, including myself, from just years of watching TV. We've been trained to use our emotions to think. And that's why we can't do things right. And so Trump Now Trump comes along, and he was just critical of certain things. He basically was a one-issue president. It was like he didn't like our trade deals. He didn't like how we were letting illegals come into America. So he ran on a nationalist type of platform. And nationalism is looked upon as a bad thing, and there's a very good reason for this, because in other countries like Germany, what are people in Germany? They're Germans. They are white people. They're Germanic heritage. They have their culture, German culture. In Italy, they have Italian culture. In France, they have French culture. All it's based on the people that are indigenous, or people that were in the area as civilization came about. It's all localized, so that's kind of a racist type of nationalist type of view. America is the opposite. It really shouldn't be called nationalism. It should be called Americanism. What Americanism is says that we have ideals of freedom and limited government and human rights, civil rights, that are constitutional in our Constitution, because we have a revolution against a tyrannical type of government, which was the British Empire. Then the United States started to assume the role of this tyrannical government, and that's why all these countries hate us so much. So I understand the hatred, but what I don't understand is that they try to destroy America from within. And so now what we got is a situation where if you wave an American flag, you're automatically considered to be a Trump voter. Like if you have a truck and you have an American flag on your truck, or you do anything that's American flag, you're automatically soon to be one of these nationalists and that are racist. And so that's a huge problem, because America's a good country. People are still coming here. And so now let's look at the left. They're so radical. The Democratic Party has been taken over by leftists, Ocasio-Cortez, ACO, whatever, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and these Islamic people, Somalians and things like that, in certain areas got elected, and they have no idea what freedom is. They hate America. So you have these people that are foreign people that are in Congress, and you have people that are, they're brainwashed communists that are trying to get this communist revolution. There's this big struggle within the Democratic Party. And so Biden came from the old school Democrats, which wasn't necessarily that bad. It's just that there's a lot of money to be made in pandering to certain groups, and they could raise a bunch of money, and then they could take money from special interest groups. And so they're just corrupt politicians, but they weren't really leftists, hardcore leftists. But they used the leftists to get more power, and it kind of backfired on them. And kind of was like their final stage was going to be to just have Clinton in and have all the leftists, the leftists just take over. And that when Trump got elected in 2016, that didn't happen. He thwarted all that stuff. So Trump is not, they always trying to argue against Trump, saying he's a mean guy. I don't know. I don't know what kind of guy he is. He's a very different type of person. He doesn't act the same way that I would. He seems to not care, but then he seems to care. I don't understand what he cares about. I don't really know where his heart is. But you know what? I don't get to choose who president is. We only get to vote based on who is the most popular and who's most likely to win. If you're going to vote for the best person, then just write in somebody that's for sure not going to win. Okay, that's the bottom line. Is go write in the Pope or somebody you think, some pastor or somebody you think is great, but it's not going to. It's just a pipe dream. And so we have a two-party system. But the thing is, even within Trump's own party, he's controversial. What does that tell you? Because all these people are leftists that are against him. They're anti-American. They hate America. So it really comes down to, do people love America or not? They're going to vote. And that's what it really comes down to. And I think Trump is going to win because people love America. We do, a core of us. We just need to convince people that those people that are on Biden's side, they don't love America. They don't seem to really care about America, freedom, or anything like that. They're all corrupt politicians, DC swamp people. Biden has been in DC for 47 years. what they do is they keep you thinking about how negative Trump is. They want to keep you thinking about how bad Trump is so that you go, oh my God, anybody could be better than Trump. Well, it's starting to wear thin. It's starting to look like, well, that's true. Trump might be really bad, but maybe Biden is senile, and Kamala Harris was not really popular. Maybe they're worse than Trump. And the Democrats are just got a lot of negative things if you really look at it and step back and look. So anyway, so I personally am endorsing Donald Trump for president, and I'm doing it partly because he's sick right now with the COVID, and I want to support him and pray for him. And I also want to just lay out my case that Trump is an outsider to the most horrible institution in America, which is DC. America, the federal government in DC has too much power. They have overstepped their boundaries. They're supposed to be controlled by the U.S. Constitution. They no longer even have any constitutional rule until we get 100% of the people in the Supreme Court that really, really, really do believe in the original interpretation of the Constitution, and we have good enough lawyers and judges below that can push every single issue we've got, including the IRS, the legitimacy of the IRS. Remember, Lois Lerner used the IRS to audit. This is kind of the background behind a lot of what's going on now. Is we used to have the Tea Party movement, and Lois Lerner used the IRS to try to destroy the Tea Party. So we don't have any love for the IRS, and so these institutions are not legitimate under the U.S. Constitution. It's been like that for a long time, and I'm no longer a constitutionalist. I'm no longer any ideology other than just a Republican. I've given up on libertarianism. I've given up on any ism that there is because all those isms are just a waste of time. When you're in a war and everybody's trying to choke the life out of you, all you're trying to do is just survive and have your freedom. And talking about like, I used to get in discussions with libertarians and stuff, and I found they're just really snobby. They look down on everybody that doesn't believe the way they do. They argue on end. They think they're just so much smarter than everybody else and things like that. But when it comes to practicality, they have no sense of that at all. They're just so blinded by their ideology that they can't even figure out that Trump's better than Biden. They can't deal with it. And so I don't really think they love America. I think they just love their libertarian ideologies, a lot of them. They're not really patriotic, and so that started to be a big problem with me. I was just like, I don't want to deal with any of that stuff anymore. We don't have a constitution anymore, so you're going to have to just deal with what we've got, because we'd have to have a revolution to have a constitution anymore. We can put more people in Supreme Court, but it's still too many people in the Supreme Court right now that don't have a clue about our Constitution, and there's not enough lawyers and things like that for anything to happen. So I'm just hoping the rest of my life I can be free. The next 20, 30 years I can be free, and hopefully the next generation can learn from our mistakes and things like that. But so Donald Trump, now I'm going to try to go to the actual polling place to vote, and there's a reason why. The polls at the polling place get counted before the mail-in ballots, and there's going to be way too many mail-in ballots, so it's going to take a long time for them to ballot. What we really need, and I mean, if you want to mail in, that's fine, but what I'm saying is a strategy here is what we really could use is you to go to actually vote at the polls, which could be really difficult. You're going to be in a long line probably because they've closed down all the polls except for just a few. So you're going to have to wait in line at some place like 20 miles from your house, 10 miles from your house or something like that. And it's going to be probably a really long line. And we're going to have to go and vote in the polls. And I also think that we're going to be a sitting duck for all the leftists while we're voting. They're probably going to try to harass people, or they're going to infiltrate us and try to pretend like they're conservatives that are angry, and they'll try to to rile us up and then put it on video. See, look at these conservatives; they're so rude. It's coming to a head, America. We're going to be in a really rough period of time, I think, where there's going to be a confrontation that is going to be like a civil war. I don't know exactly the nature of what's going to happen. It just depends on what Trump does, and it depends on what the conservatives does. It just depends on what America thinks, what America's doing. I'm seeing people waking up, but not. It's kind of a little too little, a little too late. I think that we lost our republic when the Democrats got elected into Congress, and now we have a majority in Congress. I think that we lost our republic. Trump was supposed to be able to get all these things through, and he couldn't because he didn't have the Democrats. So I don't think we can recover for this. I don't mean to be pessimistic. I think everything is okay, but it's going to be rough. I think that things are going to get much rougher now. So they're probably going to declare Biden is the president, or they'll say, hold off, we got to count all the votes. And then it'll go way into like December or something like that. And then they'll have all these court battles and stuff. We already had that with Gore and with Bush. It wasn't fun sitting there wondering which court was going to decide who our president was going to be. That's not good. When you have a court decide who your president's going to be, that's nasty stuff. So, you're sitting there wondering which judge is going to be which way and things like that. It's pretty horrific. So that's what's going to be. We're not going to have a clear election, I don't think, unless it's such an overwhelming vote, like something like 60% goes to Trump, and even the mail-in ballots are all going to Trump, and everybody just sees that Trump is just completely obliterating Biden, which could happen. So I'm not super optimistic about it because there's so much voter fraud going on. So this is my final thing about the vote is I think there's voter fraud going on. I think there's a war going on there. The left has decided they're going to do whatever it takes, legal, illegal, otherwise, to destroy America and to destroy our democracy. And I'm trying not to let them happen. I want to vote for Trump. I want to fight that. And I don't care what Trump does from now on. I'm in favor of Trump. Don't try to convince me any other way, because Biden is a complete screwball. He's a terrible Washington insider. Kamala Harris is horrible. She didn't do very good at all in the Democrat DNC primaries. He only picked her because she kind of looks like she's black. It's just horrible. Black woman. It's identity politics, the problem we've got, and, they've even just destroyed Martin Luther King. Talk about racist. It's like these leftist people are always looking at skin color and judging people based on skin color. For all, they don't know where I'm from. I saw a survey and it said like what my race was. It said Anglo. Well, I might not have any English, any Anglo blood at all. I might be 100% German, or I might be 100% whatever, Swedish or whatever. Anglo. Now, I might have Anglo in me because I'm Irish and I'm part Irish, and so, and there's other people in my family tree. I think there was some Anglos in my blood, but that's it's just I think that's another mistake we did, was checking off the boxes what race we are, so that now they're keeping track of what race is who and everything. They're so racist. They go through, like, I've seen one guy go through a list of people and said, I'm rejecting you guys because you're all white. And it's like, forget what we say, forget our character. Just look at our skin colors and say, there's not enough black people in this group. There's not enough Mexicans in this group. And that's the way they think, and that's screwy, that's retarded, and it's evil, and it's not the way God meant it. And so we need to just destroy this whole thing. We need to have a war. And this is what we're going to have to do: restore a constitutional government. Is we need to have a war. We need to identify the left as a terrorist group, terrorist organization, and get rid of them and have trials and just get rid of them one by one. Just say, hey, you've been teaching Marxism. You've been teaching anti-Americanism. You've been teaching this is the worst country in the world. When people are coming here, you have been doing all this stuff. And they're going to say freedom of speech. And we're going to say you're against freedom of speech. You're not even an American, and you promote terror. You're a terrorist. And that's what we got to do. And people, it's not a popular idea. That's why I don't think it's going to happen. People don't want to sound like they're wackadoodles. But the problem is we're in such an extreme situation that requires a very wacky, crazy, extreme response to what's going on. And, and there's also argument to be made, do we want to go through all this? And that's a good point. Do we really want to go through a war? I can understand that, but that's what's going to take. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not saying I want to go to war. I don't want to kill anybody. I'm a very nonviolent person. I would only really go take up arms if I was asked to, as a U.S. militia person, given a gun and asked to fight for our country. I would do that, or just help, assist people in that facility. But I'm not for violence, really, and I don't know if that's a good idea or not in the first place. But that is what I'm telling you, that's probably what it would take to get us back to a democracy again, because they've just destroyed everything. All of our institutions have been destroyed. I mean, libraries, they have people that are transvestites that are, or they call them transsexuals now, transsexuals that are teaching children about their lifestyle in libraries. Everything's become political. You have to wear face masks everywhere now. That's become a big issue now. Everything has been just lock you up, shut up, can't say anything, can't step out of line anymore. That's not the America I was raised on. This is worse than a lot of the actual countries that were communist countries, because in a lot of the communist countries, they would, when they're at the dinner table, be bitching about the Communist Party, while going outside, they would say, I'm a communist, yeah, because they're forced to. But everybody knew that they're forced to be communists. Or they had one party, but they can complain. They had different factions within that one party that said, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do that. But they all were communists. We're all communists, but man, they should really fix this problem here. And so that was, they started to see that everything was corrupt and everything like that. And so they're past that, kind of, in a way. Now it's all corrupt still, but they're past that period where it was like they didn't have freedom, that much freedom. And so it's almost like I think there's other countries that are better than America, almost. Like pretty soon there will be like that, if not now. I don't know when, because we had this global pandemic, so made it messed up everywhere else too. So that's just the truth of what's going on. It's not comfortable. I don't like it. It makes me want to cry. I mean, it's just sad that our country, that we raised a bunch of kids to feel entitled because of their race or sexuality or whatever it was, their sexual preference or whatever. And this identity politics made a bunch of people feel like a bunch of victims. And to me, that is, I can't respect it to a certain extent, because I can see that they're the ones that are privileged, that they're the ones that are getting all the handouts. They're the ones that are getting helped out. Meanwhile, if you want to start a business, or if you're white and want to start a business, then you're the bad guy, and they want to knock you down. So they have to knock down these people to lift up these people. Why not just lift everybody up equally? So that whole thing is evil, and Biden is part of the whole thing. He accidentally said Green New Deal when they said, "What do you mean by Green New Deal?" He said Biden's deal. No, Biden's deal is the Green New Deal. It's the same thing. They might revise it or something, but he agreed with Bernie Sanders on a bunch of stuff, who's a total leftist. And so leftism is not good. It doesn't do anything good. It just takes money away from people that deserve it, and gives it to other people that didn't deserve it. And they use some kind of excuse. They say, the top 1% is controlling everything and has all the money. Meanwhile, they take money from people like me, who aren't the top 100%. We're just the median income, So that's just messed up. And so I could rant and rave about it, but I'm just telling you that Trump's the only guy right now that's doing anything in Washington, D.C. I mean, it's so pathetic what's going on in the Republican Party even. And so it's just this typical stuff going on right now. They're not doing anything. And I don't know if Durham and Barr are going to do anything. They sound like they're going to do something, but they took too long to do anything. I don't understand how they have to have all this stuff together before they do some indictments, because that's not how Mueller did it. He started indicting people along the way. If they didn't give information, he would indict them. He would just, Why can't they indict people? Why can't they indict Comey right now? Why do they have to have a complete sealed case on all these people and all these things? Just indict the people, but I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe they got something up their sleeve, but I tell you what, it's going to be too late, too little, So anyway, we'll see how it goes. Maybe look back at this video and laugh and say, gee, I was so worried, and that we end up just killing off all these assholes and making our government, punishing all these people and getting rid of all these people and stuff like that. But there's probably stuff going on behind the scenes I don't know about. There's so much I don't know, and it's so hard to get information these days. Well, anyway, it's a 30-minute video, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching if you did make it to the end. Catch you later.